Thank you, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I know I understand it's the first session of officially day one. A number of you may have been out a little late last night, so I appreciate you making it. Maybe you missed the 6 a.m. workout, but I'm happy to have you here. As Kevin introduced me, that was wonderful. Thank you. And for those of you that aren't familiar with drug-free sport, we are specifically a sport drug testing industry, and we are a third-party administrator for drug testing programs that serve the NCAA, the NFL, NBA, WNBA, PGA Tour, LPGA, some high school associations, and a number of individual colleges and universities nationwide. So some of you in this room may be familiar with drug-free sport and what we do, but in our mission to ensure fair and safe sport, it really is our goal to match drug testing with applicable education resources specific to supplement deterrence, drug and alcohol deterrence, substances of abuse, and performance-enhancing drugs, of course. So that is really where I'd like to focus today on our mission for supplement education. And we're going to go through, based on our research and our knowledge from both drug testing and some of the issues that athletes have had with supplements in sport, as well as what we see, what we know, what we're hearing on the front line of that from the athletes, what the most common supplements are, marketing loopholes that a lot of athletes fall into, and often some of their support staff as well. We'll go into some of those limitations and the risks associated with supplements. But where I'd really like us to end up is looking at these food to supplement comparisons. And these are actual nutrient comparisons that I've done and run for real food solutions compared to some of the top 10 best-selling supplements on the market. And we're going to focus on 3 categories. We're going to look at an amino acid blend, a protein powder blend, and a weight mass gainer, a product that certain athletes may look to. And we'll kind of go into some of the differences. But really my hope for us today is that you can take away at least one piece of new information that you can put into your practice, that you can share with your athletes, you can share with your staff to make sure that we're doing our job collectively as a team of athletic support personnel to improve the health and safety, eligibility, and performance of our athletes. So really, when we dive into the supplement market, we need to understand this very central principle that athletes are the target. We're talking about a very highly vulnerable target market, right? With the rigors of competition and that competitive spirit that every athlete really embodies and holds, to be the best, to be the fastest, to be the strongest. What it takes, and also considering sometimes that really tight age window for what it means to compete and be at that elite level. All of these reasons really make athletes a vulnerable target to marketing, as well as the need to get that competitive edge and take the extra step to get more into their body. And unfortunately, the dialogue has shifted away from food as the solution, as the central principle for performance, for recovery, and instead we've started looking at this market, this booming market of over 50,000 different products that are meant to do what food really should serve the purpose of. And, I take a step back because back in 1994, the government passed the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. Some of you may be familiar. It's DSHEA, also referred to as DSHEA. But basically what this act did is it minimized the regulatory power of the Food and Drug Administration on the supplement market. And so no longer do the supplement manufacturers have to prove that their product is safe, the ingredients are pure, or that it's even effective or safe for human consumption before they can sell it to consumers and market it, sell it on store shelves, etc. And that's a huge limitation, which means that there really are no assurances in this industry. and it is absolutely highly, highly unregulated. It can take really years for the FDA and significant amount of evidence that is very hard to come by, as well as the manpower and the money behind it to remove products from the shelves. I'll give you an example of ephedra. Some of you may remember ephedra-containing products a number of years ago. It took years for the FDA to have any regulatory power to remove those products from the marketplace, even though we knew and found that those products were causing some significant adverse health conditions. Right? We had athletes really dying. It really took athletes as well as regular Americans dying to remove these products from the marketplace. So really understand that. Also, a number of these ingredients that are used in supplement products today have very little to no scientific backing. And while the DSHEA Act actually requires that they can't market with false advertising, it must be backed by some science. Unfortunately, the science just is not there yet. It's not very good in most cases as well. And I give you an example of, again, the limitations of the FDA. In 2015, there was a study that came out that found that a number of products that were actually recalled from the market for any number of reasons. Most often they contain undeclared ingredients, specifically pharmaceutical ingredients that can cause significant health effects as well. But they took a look at, I think it was 68 different products that were removed from the market from the FDA recalled. 6 months later, those same products appeared on the marketplace. They had not been reformulated. They had really not even changed the name of the product, but they were still being sold by distributors. So again, these products really have that lack of regulation, really no assurances, there's no guarantees when it comes to that, and these are things that athletes are looking for. So what is a dietary and nutritional supplement? Well, according to the FDA, it is anything taken by mouth that contains a dietary ingredient intended to supplement the diet. And these dietary ingredients can come in many shapes and forms. So most of us are familiar with the vitamins and minerals, maybe amino acids that you might find in supplements, but also consider things like glandular products, organ tissues, different types of animal or herbal constituents and extracts. Especially when you get into those herbals and botanicals, that's where we're really seeing a shift in the industry and the trend for those products to list more herbals, yet those are the ingredients that we really have very little scientific knowledge about, specific to their mechanism of action. And I really want to stress this definition. So, intended to supplement the diet. Yet how many of you in your industry may have encountered athletes leaving a training session or the weight room and using supplements as a full meal replacement? Again, that's not their purpose. Or clients that are asking for recommendations or looking for the next powder or pill or tincture to help them achieve their performance goals or their body composition goals. It's very difficult to tell sometimes what is a dietary or nutritional supplement on the market because of the marketing itself. It is very, very key to that. And somewhere along the line, as I said before, we've really missed that mark where supplements in sport have really overshadowed the safety and efficacy that is food when it comes to body composition and sports performance. And that's where we really need to make some considerations. So at Drug Free Sport, what I do with our education department is we actually receive thousands of inquiries from athletes, athletic trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, sports dietitians, looking for information about supplement products and potentially some guidance, ultimately. And from our research, where we will look at the product label, we research each individual ingredient, including the herbal ingredients, as well as the manufacturer and other products that they might distribute or sell and produce. We take that information and we've found, and this is reflected in the literature as well, that the most common supplements used in sport include these up here, the multivitamin mineral products, energy supplements that includes energy drinks, but also consider other energy-related products your athletes might use, including pre-workout powders, or even now a common trend we're seeing with nootropics, which are meant to be cognitive or focus blends that athletes might be using. Of course, the proteins and creatines, and we also see a high dependence on calorie replacement. So again, to add mass, to gain weight, those athletes that have trouble, feeling like they have trouble putting on weight. And from this, we find that the current research is a little bit mixed, but we have about a range of 40 to 70% of athletes who regularly use supplements for their performance. And when you get into the elite athlete, that relevance actually tends to increase, closer to that 70%. Also alarming is that we're currently finding for high school athletes specifically, so even before they enter the collegiate realm, the current use in most, or estimates for use in high school is about 74% of high school athletes use supplements. And unfortunately, as many of us know, there really is limited athletic support staff to offer guidance at that level. So a huge problem. Some of those reasons that athletes might cite are going to be very vast. But what we find, interestingly enough, is that the reasons really do match up with the most common supplements that are being used. So compensating for nutritional deficiencies. Well, I'm an athlete. I feel like I need more vitamin and mineral support, so I'm going to take those products to gain muscle, lose weight, add protein, decrease fatigue. So again, in conjunction with those energy-promoting products, the creatines, the proteins, etc. And where I'd like to focus here is consider that how it's recommended to the athlete. Where are they getting their information, right? And here we are in the beginning of 2016, and technology is everywhere, and social media is everywhere, and you've just got these athletes being bombarded with information from all sides. And often, and unfortunately, it's not in the flesh. It's not somebody right there anymore. It's going to be coming from a computer or a phone or a tablet. Yet, supplements will still be recommended from person to person. Family members, peers, coaches, athletic trainers. These are all sources of that nutrition and supplement information that athletes either are seeking or just happen upon and are influenced by. You know, and the unfortunate part is that athletes, because they're influenced by these external parties, very few of them rather, know why they're taking a supplement, because it was recommended. But you interview them and you ask, well, tell me why you're taking all of these supplements. Well, I think this one my mom gave to me because she wanted to make sure I'd stay healthy. And this one I think has something to do with recovery. But I just take them all because I think they've got to be doing something, right? And they're going to, again, come in those different forms, but they don't actually understand. And that becomes more of our job, to help them understand not only do they need it, but what's the alternative there, right? And lead them in that direction and start those conversations. And this can also come from a coach. Coach might not actually be trying to push an athlete towards a supplement, but a comment in practice or in the training room might make an athlete feel internally, oh, coach needs me to bulk up. Coach said I need to get more power, right? Coach said I'm slowing down. How do I get quick, fast? How do I lose body fat to increase my speed? And again, if you think about the generation that many of the athletes today fall into in this millennial age, confrontation is not the first thing on their mind when it comes to seeking information. They're going to Professor Google, right, to look up what's out there. What can I do for myself so nobody has to know that I'm going to try new things to get better? They just think I did it all on my own. I didn't need help to get where I'm going. And that becomes a problem because when you get into the marketing is pervasive. And again, excuse me, remember the population that we're serving here. It's the feel-good marketing. It's the, I have exactly what you want and what you need. Everything's going to be fine. You're going to excel in your performance. I'm 100% safe. I'm 100% natural. Go for it, right? And I like to share this because actually for our purposes today, it can be kind of entertaining to take a look at some of the marketing that's out there. It's brilliant. It's brilliant marketing from a big business, clearly. But also put yourself in the shoes of the athlete, where these are real issues. These are real wants for performance and how easy they may be skewed. And I know we all want to believe that in our heart of hearts, athletes have good heads on their shoulders and they'll make the right decision when it comes to supplements and what they use to fuel their body. But what we know is that, unfortunately, that often is not the case. And even within the sport drug testing realm, we see a number of athletes that unfortunately end up losing eligibility, being charged with hefty fines, removed from games, losing salaries because of a choice that they made regarding supplements. And these are real products that we actually get inquiries about at Drug Free Sport. But just take a look at some of those the imagery that they use in there, as well as the taglines and the words. Our most intense supplement, 100% premium. It's an award-winning ultimate muscle pill. It literally melted away 25 pounds in just 2 weeks. It sounds too good to be true, and we all know that. But if you put yourselves in the 18 to 26-year-old athlete, you might feel a little differently. Again, just some other examples. The ultimate pre-workout, animal intensity. What is animal intensity? Does anybody know? Please explain some of these to me. Also down on the whey protein down here, they use different words and different gimmicks like this is required, right? This is required for bodybuilders. This is required for competitive elite athletes. This is required for anybody looking to increase protein. Well, if you fall in any of those categories, you're like, yes, this is my product. I need this. Sell it to me, please. And they start asking for it. So again, it's everywhere. And I think I don't want to miscount our female athletes either, and specifically have a market for specific supplements for female athletes. And when you think about thermogenics and weight loss products, any athletes trying to burn body fat, thermogenics are really a kind of a hidden trouble spot, if you will, in supplementation, because those tend to be those products that list the undeclared pharmaceutical ingredients or stimulants, even some anabolic agents and steroids in that effect. And, again, those kind of false, go back a second, those false promises of just that extreme burn, melt away fat in less than 4 weeks. Again, those targeted marketing terms. But supplements, of course they're all natural. And some of you might look up here and you're like, oh, okay, she's trying to be funny, I get it. But these are real images that are used in marketing of supplements on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, in magazines, advertisements that appear to be real articles. And as we know, with the exception of maybe Olympic lifting, this physique really doesn't spell a whole lot of athleticism, to me anyway. And as many of us know, if our athletes all looked like this, they really wouldn't be able to accomplish much in, let's say, track or anything that requires any relevance of speed in that way. But I go back to where your athletes are getting information and how quickly the supplement industry can respond to changes in our social culture. Dr. Oz, for example, back when he started promoting magical green bean extract. It's the new weight loss, fat burning thermogenic. Everybody needs it. We should have discovered this years ago. It's been around forever, but now we're bringing it back. It's 100% natural. Less than 24 hours later, green bean extract products were being sold online. And those companies were making thousands of dollars. It was good business, right? But consider the ads that come across your athlete's feed as well. And I don't know if you know this, but with any type of social media, or of course any interaction that you have with Google or any of your search engines on your phone, on your computer, it starts to target you. So athletes who on Facebook might have a social media profile on Facebook or on Twitter, if they list that they're an athlete, they immediately become a target for marketing and for those ads specific to what the computer thinks they need and they want. And so again, that highly vulnerable population, you're just getting bombarded from all sides. And so what this boils down to is what our job is understanding where are they getting their information and how can you push them in the right direction. Help them understand the risks associated with supplementation. And what are those risks? Well, there are a number on here, obviously. I'm going to go into cross-contamination with a different slideshow of pictures that actually came from a Food and Drug Administration audit in a manufacturing plant in China. But other associated risks include spiking and adulteration, and that's when you get those undeclared ingredients that may be prohibited in sport, fall under a banned substances list, cause issues with drug testing, but also issues with spiking, where the product label might list 25 grams of protein, but if you actually investigated and tested the product, it had much less than 25 grams of protein. And so this actually has more of an impact on an athlete's financial health if you really consider the impact that can have and how they have to hand over fist continually buy these products to get the performance gains that they might be looking for. Ingredient sources. For ingredient sources, again, where are those ingredients listed on the label coming from? Do you know just by looking at a label? Do you know just by knowing the manufacturer? And I give the example here. This is actually a picture of evening primrose. And evening primrose oil, you might have seen in a number of supplement products, but the NSF Certified for Sport program is a third-party testing organization that will certify products that they test for prohibited substances, heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, etc. And manufacturers voluntarily submit their products to NSF to test and be a part of their program, and then they're continually audited on a continual basis to continue testing before their products end up on the shelves. Well, in this instance, NSF was testing a multivitamin, multimineral product, and had been with this company, had serviced them for a while, and it was fine, multivitamin, mineral, no banned substances. Well, one time it came back, they were testing a new lot, and it tested positive in their system. And it tested positive for THC. A multivitamin mineral product that tested positive for THC, the psychoactive chemical in marijuana, just so we're clear, right? And so they went back to the manufacturer and said, have you done anything different lately? Have you changed raw materials, production, manufacturing? They went through this whole investigation, and what they found was that they actually had changed their raw material supplier of their evening primrose oil. And their new supplier was actually harvesting their evening primrose oil right next to a cannabis field. And so in that harvestation of the evening primrose, the cannabis got mixed into that. Well, lucky for athletes, right, because this particular product was in the NSF program. So they were able to investigate this and find the culprit before it hit the shelves. But NSF went one step further. Well, what if other products are using the same raw material supplier and they don't know that, and they're not part of the NSF Certified for Sport program? So the NSF scientists went out into the field and actually pulled evening primrose products off the shelves, just in any store that you and I might walk into, and tested them. Every single one that they tested came back positive for THC. And these are products on the shelf. And for those of you that don't know, THC obviously is going to be a substance that is prohibited in competition. So that's just kind of an example there, but pretty scary when you think about multivitamin mineral supplements and how often they're out there and being taken by athletes. Herbal ingredients, this is a huge trend right now in dietary supplements. You're going to see protein powder blends, you see weight gain blends, you see recovery blends with any sort of herbal ingredient listed with their Latin names, and it sounds so great. It's got to be some ancient plant that we've discovered that's going to have some recovery benefits. But really, when you delve into the research, it's not there. And the scariest part is when we're looking at these herbal ingredients is that not only is the science not there, but when there is, it's actually found, many of them are found to be toxic when ingested by humans. Yet that product is not advertising that necessarily. Or yet that you find out the common name of that herbal ingredient ends up being poison ivy, right? How many of you would like to just go out and eat poison ivy? I'm not sure I'd be signing up for that myself. But really, that is the trend. And the unfortunate part of the use of these herbal ingredients is that many manufacturers will use them as a masking agent to say that this particular substance is just naturally occurring in this herbal compound. An example being Acacia rigidula or orchid. That the manufacturers of the product Craze, for example, said was a natural source of DMAA or of dendrobium, okay, or of a new synthetic stimulant of BMPEA, beta-methylphenylethylamine, and these are all stimulants and substances specifically prohibited in sport, and they're not listed on the label except as an herbal ingredient, and so. Being scientists, obviously, people have investigated, well, is this herbal source actually a source of these stimulants? And most of the science have come back and found that they're not, but they are actually synthetically added to those products. So it's a huge, huge problem. Underlying undiagnosed medical conditions, so everybody's internal chemistries are a little bit different, and especially when we're talking about products with limited scientific evidence, this becomes an issue. For those athletes that you might go out and a particular product might trigger increased blood pressure, for example, or an really high, exponentially high dose of caffeine might just trigger them to pass out on the field. You don't know how individual bodies are going to respond to different supplements, specifically depending on what's actually in them versus what's listed on the label. And finally, banned substances aside, consider the health impact of products that might be high in levels of heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides coming from these different products. So I want to go back to cross-contamination now, and I'm going to lead us through some pictures that, again, were taken from a manufacturing plant audit the FDA did in China. And this is where certain supplements are actually being produced. I guess I can look at this side here. So you can see here, let me get my pointer, chickens in a supplement plant here, digestive enzymes grinder. I like to point that out because for those of you that might be familiar with products and kind of looking at labels and what's listed in there, how many of you have seen digestive enzymes listed on a label before? It's becoming very, very common and popular in a lot of protein powder blends, specifically because people believe that it helps them break down and digest the protein. Well, we've got pretty advanced digestive system ourselves, just being human, so I'm not sure how much more help we might need with that. But this is how they're being produced in some of these plants. Here's the bathrooms. This is their filtration system. We've got some documents laying around, raw material storage here. Their centrifuge looks extremely clean. Filter troughs, so this is where they're kind of filtering some of the product. And I'm not really sure what kind of social hour is happening here, but we've got a motorcycle in the background, lots of different hoses. A little bit different of an image than you might consider. And I know some of these are small, I apologize. But a little different of an image than you might expect when you think about what we see in terms of the products on the shelves. So again, we've got something cooking up here. Lots of different hoses. Those are those filter troughs again. Let me go back. The filter troughs on the left-hand side here, and once they're filled, and these little dots look like little dots. Those are actually flies, little bugs going on there. And at the end of their audit, they actually pulled all the hard raw materials that they got from that particular lot that they were testing in that audit. And you can see some examples that they pulled from this particular instance. We've got, I think, a nut and bolt here, some blue glass, pieces of plastic, hair, you name it, in there. And actually, per the FDA, currently about 70% of the manufacturing companies do not even comply with basic quality control procedures. 70%, and this comes directly from the FDA. And of the 55,000 products currently sold in the United States, only about 170 products, 170 out of 55,000, for those of you that can't do that math in your head, it's less than 0.5%, have actually been tested enough to have any sort of semblance of an idea of possible side effects and efficacy in the human body. Less than 0.5%. We're also finding that a number of our raw ingredients and raw materials found in supplements are actually originating from supplement manufacturers and companies in China, and a very small percentage of those industries and companies have actually been investigated or audited, rather. So, cross-contamination aside, what about banned substances? They do appear in supplements, whether they are readily available and listed on the product label or not. These slides are actually complements of the NSF Health Sciences laboratory for dietary supplements. And what they've been doing, aside from their Certified for Sport program, is they continually test products on the marketplace for WADA-banned substances. And so far, they've identified 178 products that tested positive for any number of WADA-prohibited substances, so according to the WADA-prohibited substances list. Of that 178, 46, about a third, tested positive for those prohibited substances, but those substances were not listed on the label. So 178 products test positive. Some of those do list the prohibited substances on their label. 46 did not list any, but yet they still tested positive. And I make this point because of the lack of regulation, because the products do not have to be proven safe, efficacy, or pure, or any standards of truth in labeling before they hit the market. Right? This puts our athletes at a disadvantage, a heightened risk for drug testing issues. Most sport organizations do not approve the use of any dietary supplement. Okay, I'm sorry, not the use. They do not approve any dietary supplement. There is no approved list of dietary supplements. And that's an important thing to make, point to make, because it's a question that we get a lot. Well, where is the list of the NCAA approved supplements? Where, this product says that it's WADA approved. Well, WADA does not approve any supplements. The NCAA does not approve any supplements. Their stance and their policy is that the athletes take these products at their own risk. The unfortunate point, and this is where you come in, is that these athletes either knowingly take these products, assuming the risk themselves, but many of them just don't know. And a lot of research actually says because products are sold so readily in stores, on the shelves, online, and marketed to them, athletes have that false perception that supplements are safe for them to take. And they do. And then the unfortunate thing might happen when they get drug tested. So it's our job really to make sure that we are following through with our end of the bargain and educating. And it's difficult because we can only look at the front of pack labeling, right, as well. We can't test the product ourselves necessarily, There are companies and organizations that do that, such as NSF, which is great. But if you're purely just basing whether or not you're going to promote a product to an athlete just by looking at the label and saying it's free of banned substances, I give you this example, also from an NSF study. Let's take a look at some of these ingredients. Protein, just whey protein isolate, whey protein concentrate, magnesium, potassium, creatine, ribose, glutamine. None of these ingredients are specifically banned by any sport organization. But when it was tested by the NSF labs, they found a beta-2 agonist, which is alone its own banned drug class in any sport, and a number of banned stimulants, some amphetamines, and again, here's that beta-methylphenylethylamine, which has now been a target of FDA recalls because we know that it's a synthetic stimulant that has not been tested in humans, and in certain circumstances has been associated with significant adverse events in humans that have taken it. So consider some of that. And again, that was on a label that listed absolutely nothing. What I kind of wish is that other image showed the front of the label. Wouldn't you like to know how this particular product was marketed? Right? It has all of these stimulants in them, yet none of the ingredients that were listed were even close to a stimulant form. So really interesting to think about the marketing there as well, based on the past slides. So ultimately, this information, this should make you really angry. There's no guarantees when it comes to supplements. Makes me very angry, ultimately. But we have to keep in mind that we're talking about a $30+ billion industry. This is big business, right? And the unfortunate thing is that it's about money. It's about bigger profits, the bottom line. It's not about athlete health and safety. It's not about integrity. It's not about even creating a product that, improves athletic performance at the end of the day. It's about business. And there's really no harm in that except for the harm that it does to our athletes. And this is where you come in. This is where you can take this education and this knowledge and share it with athletes and your staff and continue the education for them. Ask questions. Do you understand why an athlete might be looking at a supplement? You're going to be a resource for them to come to. They're going to be looking for you to make recommendations, but you need to be very wary of that and share that knowledge with them in terms of the risks and benefits. Again, somewhere along the line, we missed that shift and we started reaching for supplements as an easy option because it became really difficult to talk about food. We need to engage food back into the conversation. And you can do that. You're in a perfect position to do that and start shifting the conversation back to the food, away from the supplement. Oh, it looks like you're interested in taking a protein powder. Instead of making a blanket statement for them, ask further questions. What makes you think you need some protein powder? Who recommended that to you? Or where'd you get that idea? What were you thinking about taking? And what other protein-rich foods are you eating? And actually, in the collegiate setting, it's remarkable how little nutrition knowledge athletes come into colleges and universities with. You set them down with a list of foods and ask them to identify the carbohydrate, the protein, or the fat. Many of them can't do that outright. And that's a huge problem. And that's where, again, that education needs to be a team approach. And that can start with you and shifting that over. And if food specifically is out of your realm, right, in terms of making specific recommendations for meals and snacks, pre-workout, post-workout, recovery, pre-game meals, etc., that's where you can defer to some of your other specializations and members of your sports medicine team, and ideally a sports dietitian that's going to be able to harness, that athlete's sport, their current body composition and their performance goals to help you work together based on the performance program that you have set for them and their performance goals. Let the food then guide them to those goals as we move forward. So how do we get them to look at that? So often we think that eating healthy is very difficult, right, in kind of the lay American press. We want to make it easier. We want to make it as easy as recommending supplements. But not only that, we want to be able to prove that food works. And this is a really exciting time for both strength and conditioning and performance and sports nutrition to work hand in hand, because I don't think we've really tested how far we can go together with that in matching those two together. Okay? But what I want to do is the next 3 slides, I encourage you to share with your staff, with your athletes. Print them out, post them. If you want an electronic copy, I'm more than happy to email one to you. But these should be shared, because what these are is these are nutrient comparisons of some of the top 10 best-selling amino acid supplements, the protein blends or weight or mass blend compared to food. And I want to run through these together. And so this first one is a comparison of an amino acid blend supplement. This is taken from a top 10 list on a supplement distribution site, compared to just 4 ounces of grilled chicken, about the size of a deck of cards. And what we most often look at, obviously with the amino acid blend, is the amino acid profile, right? Is it complete? What do those numbers look like? And before we get into that, I'd like to point out that one serving, I realize this is difficult to see, but one serving of this particular amino acid supplement is 3 capsules. So an athlete has to take 3 capsules to get this particular amino acid profile, compared to our grilled chicken. And if you just go down the line and kind of compare, you can see an exponential difference in the amount of amino acids present in that whole food source compared to the supplement, where they might have to keep taking tablets and pills. Specifically to point out the branched chain amino acids and the differences there, as these are often a high target for recovery, and often when athletes start reaching, or maybe those who recommend the branched chain amino acid supplementation. Next, we have our protein powder blend, where one serving is about 1 scoop for this particular example and analysis. And I've compared this to a simple snack of 1 string cheese wrapped into about 4 slices of deli turkey. And it's not always an easy target, but just to show you how that balances out, we've got very similar calorie comparisons here. But for the string cheese and turkey, we actually double the amount of protein in this particular snack and opportunity. And again, look at the amino acid profile. And this is for a protein powder blend, right? So consider what the athletes are taking that for. And we've got the amino acids, again, highly different numbers, the food outperforming the supplement. And finally, our weight or mass gainer supplement. In this instance, 1 serving was 4 level scoops of this particular product in comparison, and we've matched this up with yogurt with granola, some banana and almonds, specifically 1 cup of yogurt, ½ a cup of granola, 1 cup of banana, or 1 whole banana, and a 1/4 cup of whole almonds. So athletes take weight gain supplements to gain weight. At least I would hope that they would be in the same lines there. But what when I work with the athletes, we often have to say is that supplements are a use it or lose it type of game, right? If an athlete is taking something in order to gain weight, and let's say they achieve weight gain, once they achieve their goal weight and they stop taking that supplement, all of those benefits are going to go away. Whereas food is a necessity. We have to eat for the rest of our lives, right? We do not have to supplement for the rest of our lives. So if you can find that sustainable ground that is that athlete's whole diet in order to push them in that direction, and you can get it from food, right, that is going to be the lasting benefit that it can provide as you go forward. Again, I encourage you to use those. I know we've kind of covered a lot, and I'd like us to open up a discussion, because supplements and nutrition is really meant to be a discussion, and we could have covered any number of things together. But really, at the end of the day, I hope that you can kind of just shed some light on, what the supplement industry looks like right now, and what that means for you as an athletic professional, as well as for the athletes and clients that you serve, right? Their health, their eligibility, their ability to perform at their best and maintain that and sustain it. And again, it is my hope that we can work on this together as athletic professionals, sports dietitians, strength and conditioning coaches, athletic training staff, team coaches, etc., that we can start shifting the focus away from supplements and bring it back on the ability of food to be not only safe, but highly, highly effective in outperforming supplements on that grand scale. And at this time, thank you so much for your attention.